Hey, folks, welcome back to Soaring Profits. As always, we've got the dynamic duo here. And tonight, folks, he actually does have the Batman
I do. Just bought it today.
utility belt. The boy, we'll have a little conversation around that when we get in here. But we got, so we had a little bit of a change tonight. Our guest that was going to be coming in had a bit of a work emergency. She's a pediatric nurse. She wasn't able to make it with us this evening. Obviously, we understand that sort of thing. And we have brought in Mon 2.0. Is that the best way to go with it? I guess that's the best way. There you go.
Right.
James, you want to introduce?
Yeah, sure. So this young gentleman I have known since the time he erupted from his mother's wombs, and he's super happy I said it like that. I bet. I have actually changed his diaper. He is my godson. I've mentioned him several times. He is, I think, a guru at building. Like, he knows more about building than I'll ever know. And watching him work, I had the opportunity a couple of times to watch him work on his dad's dream home, and he did some amazing things. He is also the one that captured the heart of the sunshine that we talked with last week, Denise. I don't know how he did it. I have talked to her extensively and said, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it's Kollin, right? But I don't know. We're still working on it. No, he's an amazing guy. He's very bright. His dad raised him well, and I've known him for a long time. This is Kollin. This way.
Hey.
Yeah. And I like his bum. I'm just saying. I just want to put it out there. Wiped his bum.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks for the intro. Yeah, that's I'm super excited to be on. Oh no. Wait, oh, hold on. Oh my god, of course.
That's like my tech stuff. We're good. That works.
What are the chances? Oh my goodness.
They're pretty good actually on our show. So, like, what do you do? Because you're a builder, but you work for an organization that builds. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so just a quick intro just before how I got into building. I was dating my high school sweetheart. We were dating for probably 2 years at the time. I would have been 16. And I met her. We had a family Christmas party, and her dad's second cousin's husband actually came in, and his name was Steve. And really cool guy, funny, whatever. And we got to talking. I was the boyfriend of the family, so especially him, he's a contractor. He owns the company, and so he always gave me like the rough around, whatever. But I wanted to go to college for police foundation. So years go by, I go to college for police foundations, and I'm almost out. And he said, well, hey, like, you're almost out. I doubt, like, policing is going to be right off the bat. If you're looking for extra work, come work for my company, Straight Line. And I'm like, all right, yeah, sounds good. And I started my construction career off of that. I was 19, turning 20, and April 2013. And so he was working based out of Toronto, and he would renovate houses. And Toronto houses are much older than the houses basically anywhere else, because one of the oldest cities around. So the houses would be over 100 years old, and it was just like I didn't even know how a wall was built. It was so I took a mechanic co-op in high school, and I knew my kind of way around of a car, but construction, I had zero knowledge of construction. I had no idea there was 2x4 studs behind the drywall. I didn't know what drywall was. I knew what paint was, and you just paint the wall. And so anyways, that's how it all started. And we would be commuting to Toronto back and forth every day. And eventually he was able to migrate his company. He lived in Toronto, but moved to Horseshoe Valley with his family. So he was able to take the business from Toronto, pull it into Barrie, and we started basically Straight Line in Barrie. And it was him and I for a little while. And so, we would come into a smaller job we would have as a bathroom. So we'd come in. The old bathroom is basically gutted. You pull everything back down to the studs and the subfloor. Even if the subfloor was damaged, you would either overlay it or cut out the rotten pieces, put in new pieces. We'd re-insulate, vapor barrier, drywall, flooring, tile, shower, put everything back together the way they wanted to. And then we would go from there all the way to full additions and full house guts. So we would get the entire main floor, the entire basement, knock out load-bearing walls while they're supported, put in flush mount beams, make everything open concept, restructure the house essentially.
So you lost me at paint.
I was going to say you lost me at drywall, but that's okay.
I'm just
kind of that don't know how to do shit, nothing. But anyway, no, that's
like
awesome.
So based on that, like, do you guys have like we lost you at paint, but like, what do you have any questions on?
Well, so basically what it is so those people that have kind of watched before. So I'm a real estate investor. I've got a few properties, and you know what? Trying to find good people that know what they're doing and that are reasonably priced, are willing to kind of dumb it down is kind of hard to find. Like I just had a project that I'm working on one of my properties after the big storm that we had here with getting fences repaired. And I understand that these guys have been swamped with everything that's been going on lately, but to try to find labor, trying to find somebody that knows what they're doing, that isn't like kind of itching when they come up to you, right, is a little wild. And there's some interesting
bag. Yeah.
Sorry?
No, sorry. I was just saying, like, and what do you have in your bag?
Right, exactly. Right.
Like sketched out and
yeah. No, I think it's so interesting because, again, I've demoed a couple houses. I've completely renovated and gutted stuff. And by me, I mean, I've went through the process, right?
Okay.
And if you want to end a relationship or a marriage faster, that is a fantastic way to do it. Yeah. That will pretty much do it every single time, right? Yeah. So for me, when I get an opportunity to talk with someone like yourself that understands that aspect, like James can attest, one of my rental properties now, like we had it completely demoed, like down to nothing. And absolutely. And it was an old century home that I now have, again, like I say, one of my rental properties that I've kept, but it was literally a nightmare. And it was my ex's father who was helping us do it. Like it was still just such a tumultuous process, right? Yeah. So I have such a respect for what you guys do and the skill set that is, because it's certainly not mine.
Yeah, no, and same with me. I renovated my house, like we talk about, like kitchen downstairs. It already had a small kitchen, but I made a bigger kitchen, a huge bathroom with a giant tub and all that stuff. And all that stuff took time and work. And you know, you go through contractors, and sometimes contractors are amazing and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they leave partway through a job and, you know, leave something leaking, or you have to go chase them down. Like in particular, the one time I had to go find this guy and, you know, go, what's going on? And they're like, well, I got 6 jobs. I'm like, yeah, but I paid you for my job. So let's get back to finishing off the small things you don't want to do, which it was just, he didn't want to do the trim and stuff like that, you know, the final touches, because he likes the big builds, putting in walls and stuff like that. And it was frustrating. But so what is the biggest job you have ever done, Kollin?
Well, I will go, I will put that on pause for just 1 second, because I want to say something before I forget about the industry, because you guys are so right. All of our clients that we've had, almost all of them, have said they've had extreme horror stories with contractors prior. Now, we're definitely not a budget-friendly option. It's definitely high-end, but I truly believe we've earned that right because of how professional we are. As a residential construction specialist, we offer, like, Steve has his contracts so fucking dialed in. Like, every possible situation that could come up with this project is labeled in the contract. And we are all, like you said, the guys that are like itching, or like you show up in track pants or whatever. We have company shirts, company hats. We all look half decently, like, you know, cleaned up, professional, and like we look the part, and we provide. And when you do that, you just end up spreading the word, and things go from, you know, one client to another. And that's basically how we took over, like not took over, but we're close to having most of our, like, Simcoe County area, pretty much, like, everyone kind of has heard of us, and and know that we're competition. So but so many people run into these situations. And about the not finishing the trim part, it sucks as you for a client 100%. And I totally feel for that. In his, like, not even in his defense, because it's wrong. He offers a service, and he needs to make sure that service is completed, even if it's the small stuff. But like Steve has done this before too. He's so busy and he doesn't call people back. I've given my people that I know and family friends and stuff like that his number to contact, to be able to coordinate something, to do a job, and it'd be like, oh, he hasn't called back. So it happens. It definitely happens, and they're super busy, and job to job, it's pretty hectic, but it's a lot of fun. It's super rewarding. But you're right, again, with the whole divorce thing and like relationships, man, you don't know how much shit I see on a day-to-day basis of clients, married clients with children going through shit. And it is like, when we do a big one, we're just finishing up one right now. They live out in Midhurst. They had a really nice home. We came in to do their bathroom, on their ensuite bathroom, and we noticed some structural issues in the floor, on the top floor. And we went down to the basement because we had to turn the water off, and we noticed a lot of like structural imperfections in the house. It was not good. As a builder's perspective, like, we were honestly concerned for the clients. And a lot of people would count like, oh, they're trying to upsell them, whatever. We had an engineer come in. We had and it was, I can't believe this house passed inspection, to be honest. They had a huge beam that spanned from end to end of their basement, and they had a pretty big home. I would say their home was roughly 3,000 square feet. So it's a pretty decent sized home, and spanned from end to end. It had to span 30, I think it spanned 31 feet, just under 32 feet. And when you have a beam that big, you need a stamped drawing on saying that load can be dispersed over that said beam. But it wasn't even solid. They had splits in it. So they didn't have lumber long enough, because that's engineered wood. When you get to like 31 feet, you need engineered wood to be able to put that up. So they had just straight typical 2x10s, which a max you can get is 16 footers, and they had them spliced. So it was a 4-ply beam, but a splice is when you would have to end the beam short and then continue it on. But when you're laminating the next piece onto the beam, you would laminate over that splice and then splice it somewhere else. Right. Under any of those splices, you need point loads down onto a footing into the basement. Right. Otherwise, you're going to have sag. Just over time, your floor is just going to dip. They had no posts. The only post they had was in the middle of the beam. The post was way too small for the beam. The beam had sunken into the post probably an inch and a quarter into the wood. Like, the whole house is literally coming down. Yeah. So they are now officially renovating their entire house. Yeah. We have the full basement gutted. We have the main floor gutted. Ironically, we don't have the top floor gutted, but the bathroom's still at the drywall stage, because we're going to eventually get there. But they went from a $15,000 job to a $400,000 job because of all the structural. Wow. Like, that was their jump. And they were like, yeah, well, we're renovating the bathroom now, so we might as well do it. And I'm like, holy fuck, like, your job just
I need that kind of money. I don't know where. I don't know. Yeah, you get that kind of money, but I need to find out.
And then I found out that the one guy, he's a surgeon, and I was like, okay, well,
there you go. That's how you get that kind of money. I could be a surgeon. I could go back to school. I'm only 52.
But these guys, so a younger, I would say he's late 30s, early 40s. They have 2 kids. The kids must be between 5 and 10, and a wife. They are now living on the upstairs. They're doing their dishes out of the bathroom sink, the bathroom sink upstairs. They live upstairs. They have no home. They should move out, honestly, but they're going through so much, and it's been months. And to live like that, these guys are actually doing pretty well, but you do see some horror stories where they just aren't doing well. It's so stressful.
that
Oh,
line.
absolutely. Especially when financial gets involved. That's the most problem with most relationships is when financial gets involved, and you got a big bill like that all of a sudden that you're not expecting. But it's a big credit to your reputation if you can walk in like this is kind of unrelated, but I have a mechanic that I know and love called Chris, and whatever he says to me, it doesn't matter what it is, what's the cost. And I've introduced him to Pat, and he told Pat, you need some tires. And Pat's like, I just freaking bought these tires. Like, there's no way I need tires. And Pat, what happened?
I need new tires.
Yeah, he needs a new tire. And I told him that when he came to me and he said, Chris says I need new tires. What's that about? I'm like, I don't know. I guess you need new tires. He's like, there's no way. Just bought them. Just bought them. And what happened is the walls have worn down. He must be rubbing on something.
Well, so when I park, I've got a boat in the driveway now. So when I park at night, I park along the curb. And so because I'm in and out of the house so often, I'm clearly rubbing the side of the sidewalls of the tires, right?
Yeah.
So when I went in and picked up my vehicle prior to, and he's like, you need new tires. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So then he comes over. I actually, I ripped off the front of my truck the other day. I had my daughter at rugby and I pulled up against a bumper, and it luckily it wasn't like the chrome part of my truck. It was like the plastic rim on the bottom, but I yanked like the whole thing right off. Yeah. I take it into Chris, like my hat in my hand, going into Chris, like, hey man,
how you doing?
Hey, I need some advice as to what to do with this. And he's like, yeah, but you still need new tires. And then he went over and showed me. He's like, this is great, but he's like, this is problematic. And he's like, that's why you need new tires. But this is what I like about a guy like that. And, someone like yourself as well. First of all, that trust aspect, right, is so crucial. And James, I trust people that James would refer me to, or he wouldn't, right? I believe that absolutely he's the guy of his word. But they take the time to explain it, right? I don't consider myself a smart man, right? But I also don't consider myself a dummy. So if you take that second, that little bit of time, and you work with me and explain to me what the problem is, I'm there.
Yeah, that's what builds the trust. Exactly. And I feel like I was, I can read people half decently. I feel like 9 times out of 10, I can read the right person for what's happening. And like, I don't want it to sound like judging, but it's not. It's reading. It's what's happening. And for the most part, I feel like I can sense when someone's giving me bullshit. And I can, on the other hand, then I really realize like, okay, wow, that 100% makes sense. Everything here lines up to the fact that I need new tires.
Right.
And maybe we don't go as close to the curb anymore, and then you save time.
Yeah. Oh no, he'll need another lesson in tire safety. I know Pat well. There'll be another set of tires next year. Don't you worry, buddy.
Right. Yeah,
I literally just went through the same thing last week. I just had to put new Summers all around, and I was $1,200 in.
It hurts. It hurts because it's not. What drives me crazy about that stuff is I'm not buying like high performance tires. I'm not upgrading my car in any way. All I'm doing is making it work the same way it already works. And that stuff kills me. I hate that. Yeah.
Mechanics have the worst job because that's their job. They literally, their job is to put their car back into its original working fucking capabilities.
Yeah. They're not bringing joy to anybody.
Yeah, there's no fancy backsplash. There's no, you're not putting in the new shower. It doesn't look all beautiful afterwards.
It's not turbocharged.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's your car. It looks exactly the way it did before it came in. Yeah. But now it works. So enjoy. But that's the whole thing is that I trust Chris no matter what he says. And it's great to have people like that. And when you have people like that, you keep them and you do good by them. And you make sure that they know that you have them, and that they're paid on time right away.
Paid, like respect your service. I don't feel bad about paying you for your service right now. Like this is you're trying to get by just like I'm trying to get by, and I'm in the exact same, like I'm in a trade. I totally understand that. You are worth your knowledge, and you have to respect that. Oh my God, that's so expensive. Yeah, well, how much do you get paid to go to work every day? What's your idealistic amount of money you want to make per day? multiply that by 4 people that are there working on your house, multiply that by however long that it's realistically going to take. Shit adds up. And then talk about finishes. And then you got to fucking buy all your finishes.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, it's $11,000 to renovate my bathroom. I thought we were going to spend 4. It's like, it doesn't.
Because you don't understand how bathrooms work. There's a lot more to it.
And
you get this guy before, no problem. He'll do it. I'll do it for 4. So okay, now that we're into money, how do you guys break down money? Like, so I've worked with contractors that I don't have an upfront cost. My upfront cost is all equipment and wood and stuff like that, and they're kind of the low end. I'm trying to get a deal. And then there's other ones where like they're going to break it in 25, 25, 25, and then the rest when it's done. How do you guys do it? Especially since you do charge a little bit more, which you know, like you said, you do higher end stuff, you do more complicated stuff, so you do deserve to get that kind of money. So what do you guys do?
Yeah, so and everything's listed on the contract for the client to see, which is another reason why like they don't mind paying it, because each individual item is priced out and it all adds up at the end, and you can't really argue with what's happening. If you don't want this premium, you're gonna have to hire. Yeah. Because like we have like 14 other calls that we are going to, and we're just like that just happened to be the way that it turned out. But on the contract, so right off the bat, there would be your labor charge. So it'd be like, okay, so realistically, we plan to have 2 guys in here every day for 3 weeks. Those 2 guys on a labor, so Steve would charge our labor, which if I make $30 an hour, I cost $40 an hour to Steve.
That's right.
With WSIB, with all these things that he has to pay. So he bills me out at probably that or just over. And then there's whoever I'm working with, which is the same situation. So it ends up being expensive. Even if somebody's making $20 an hour and it's costing $30 an hour to have that guy, you're talking, that's a big upgrade in pay. And so you'll have that. And then he charges the straight line, the business percentage on top of that, because that's back our plumber. And so any job that comes in through him, which is all of them mostly, he would have his upcharge on that, but it would just be listed in the plumber's price as that's how much he's going to cost. And then he would have that tacked onto him. And I don't know a lot about this part of it because I'm the guy that has the tool belt on, and I'm just like, I can't do it.
Yeah, but you're learning, which is great.
Yeah, and but it's all listed out, and as they go through it with meetings.
So is there a payment that you have to pay up front, or do you guys?
Yeah. So there would be, what's the percentage up front? Fuck, I can't remember. There's
it doesn't have to.
Checkpoint 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
basically, like it sits around 20 or 25% per checkpoint, and as you go through those stages, you pay, and it all makes sense because you're not getting everything up front. Because then that's the other horror story. You get shit up front, and then fucking contractors are piecing. So many people have told me that. That they've literally paid the contractor 50% up front, and they dip out and don't answer phone calls, don't answer anything, and it's such a shitty thing to do, and it's so common. How do you trust us?
And you go to the business bureau, and the business bureau really doesn't do much about it because it's hard, especially since they can just dissolve their business in a second and build another one. Like it's very easy for a contractor to go, yeah, it was Pete's contracting, now I'm John's contracting, so I'm not even that company anymore. That company's gone.
Yeah, like a big thing around that is too, right? When you get into the sums that these larger projects get into, is that you can't even go into a small claims court type scenario where you kind of present yourself in like a civil litigation aspect. You ending up into civil litigation that requires lawyers. That is an extra added expense, right? Like it becomes really problematic when you get trades that are just not willing to work.
4 times since I've been on with Steve has he had to go to court.
Yeah.
No.
I believe it.
for crazy clients. And
Yep.
he's won every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time he has won. Why? Because that's why his contracts are listed
Yeah.
so descriptively. They're everything. Any possible thing that can happen, he's got his ass. You're like, yeah, you want to go to fucking court? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll meet.
Well, and that in that business, you have to, because I hate to say it, that, you know, husband and wife are picking, you know, eggshell white versus clamshell white. And she loses her mind that it's the wrong one, or he thinks that this is the tile that you picked. You've put it up on the wall, and everyone goes, reveal $400,000 later, and they go, that's not the tile.
That's not it. Yeah.
Right. Like it's some insanity stuff, right, that comes out of this. But
and the fact that partway through a project, the wife or the husband's like, you know what? I think I've decided I want like a bigger window here. And they don't get that to put a bigger window in, you have to like modify like other things. It doesn't, it's not just like cut a bigger hole. It doesn't work like that. But a lot of people think that you just cut a bigger hole, right?
That's they're just like, oh, you got to cut a bigger hole. No, because if that window's bigger and you're sitting on a load-bearing wall, actually, basically Windows, it's all load-bearing. There's always some sort of pressure that you need to account for. So how a window is built is we would have what we call our jack studs and our king studs. So depending on the size of the opening and how much load is going to be put on that said spot decides on the type of header you need. The header, so a jack stud, fuck, I wish I had like something to draw on. A jack stud goes straight from the bottom plate to the top plate. Sorry, the king stud. The jack stud goes from the bottom plate to the bottom of the header. So once you put that, like when you put that header in, it'll be a beam of some sort. It could be a 2x10, could be an LVL, and that is put on its edge so that when you stand it up, you'll have, it's a 2x10, you'll have the 10 inches going up towards the top plate. Sorry, I'm trying to explain this the best way I can.
Yeah, you're doing fine. I'm with you.
So, and then the jack stud is underneath the end of that beam, and then underneath the end of the beam on the other side. So any load that's pushing down in the middle of that window is being dispersed along that header and then pushed down onto the jack studs.
Right.
Sometimes there's triple jacks, double jacks, single jacks. But anyways, every window has a header and jack studs.
Right.
And if your window is going to be bigger, that means you have to take that header out. You have to take those jack studs out. You have to open up everything while you're temporarily supporting the roof, and then building a new header with new jack studs, restructuring that part of the house. So no, it's definitely not that easy.
No, and meanwhile, the people are like, well, I don't understand. Why is it going to be like $600 more? It's just a bigger window. Yeah. No, I totally get that. When you do run into, because you obviously, like, there's so many factors in construction, you obviously run into timeline failures, right? So you've given, it's going to be 3 weeks. How do you guys deal with the fact that it's 6 weeks now?
Yeah, I'm not there for a lot of that, but it definitely does happen. And one thing that, again, would be listed in the contract, if we don't meet a timeline, there's typically something, there's a reason why we didn't hit that timeline. And in the contract, we would have a opening for problems.
Right.
So there'll be possible problems that could occur, or I don't know how it's written.
Okay. And there'd be like a list of possible problems that could occur. And
exactly. So yeah, let's say we do a bathroom and we rip it out, gut it out, and there's mold. The insulation, then typically it's pink, but it's fucking black, and we're like, hey, that's something to look into. Like as time goes on, like building practice is getting better. So like the vapor barrier that they used to use back in the day is like paper thin. It's like saran wrap. It's like so much saran wrap over the studs and in the insulation and stapled it on. Nowadays it's 6 mil. So it's 6 millimeters thick. So it's really heavy duty. So we'll pull back all the vapor barrier and we pull out the insulation, see what's happening. Oh my God, you have a roof leak. Well, now we need to get that roof leak sorted. And if you like, and that depends on the client if they want to do it or not. Right. The correct answer is yes, it sucks because it's going to be an extra payment, but we have your whole, like we have the reasoning why your roof's leaking right here, and we can fix that. And if you don't want that to get ruined again while we're all opened up, you're going to have to fix the roof leak, whatever. That would delay a job.
Right.
So in the contract, it would be, this is the reason why the job's delayed, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just so busy and it doesn't happen. A lot of the times the clients are really reasonable and they're fine. And we have the right amount of like showing up, the word that I would use there, but being there, like the right amount of time of actually being present at the job is good. They're happy with us and everything so far, so they understand that things just.
I know there's times that I've been there, gone to see your dad, and I'm asked where you are, and it's the weekend, and it's like, well, they're a little behind, so they've hopped on for the weekend. They're going to do some extra work, and you come home just dead, and then we watch UFC together and drink, but and you're exhausted. Yeah, no, it's just interesting stuff. It's great. So what was your biggest job? What
biggest job? The one we're building right now, and this is absolutely insane for us as a company, because we've done a couple houses, full ground up. We have the concrete foundation poured. We did this log home out in 6 Mile Lake. It was about a 1,700 square foot log home. Beautiful, right on the lake. It was gorgeous, and it was really cool to actually. It was a timber package, so all the pieces to the exterior walls came pre-factoried. They had we call them dovetails. So that's how it's manipulated in the factory to connect, and you stack the logs on top of each other.
Kind of like really old Lincoln logs when we were kids. Yeah. They just fit into each other.
We have gone from renovating bathrooms to we are currently framing it's a 19,000 square foot home in Innisfil that is 19,000 square feet before the basement, the garage, and the covered porches. And after all of that, it's almost 32,000 square feet.
Wow.
That is the biggest, I think it's probably the biggest, if not the second biggest house in our area. Yeah. It is monstrous. 12 foot walls in the basement, 12-foot walls on the main floor, 12-foot walls on the second floor, 12-foot walls on the third floor, and then there's a rooftop patio with a lookout over the lake and shit. Wow. We're building it for the CEO of Rogers, actually.
Well, I was going to say that guy sells drugs, but he's in telecom. That makes sense.
CEO of Rogers. So
I would imagine it's not just you guys, and there's not just two guys with hammers building something like that.
No, so there's 4 of us on site framing it. We're actually just hired to frame this one. We're not running the whole job. We're the framers. So there's typically 4 or 5 guys there every day, and we're framing it right now.
So when you frame, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt while I do.
No, all good. Yeah. No.
So did they have the exterior brick already done, and you're framing the inside, or you're framing the actual outside?
No, we're framing the house, dude. It was. We showed up and it was just this fucking crater of foundation. Dude, it looked like a bomb went off. There was not only with what they dug out, but to get to where they wanted to build, it was over 1,000 loads of dirt excavated from that property. Dump trucks. 1,000 fucking dump trucks.
That's amazing.
And my $500 a month phone bill paid for that.
Right? We were like, yo, is there any way we can get free cell phones for life after this or something? Because this is insane.
So, Kollin, again, with what you're seeing right now, obviously, the Rogers family has fairly deep pockets, right? Yeah. But when you're seeing, again, one of the things that we bring up here with Soaring Profits a lot of the time is I focus a lot on the financial side of things, whether you're investing, personal finance, that sort of thing. And what we've been talking about a lot lately is kind of a slowdown in what we're seeing in the economy. And the first thing, obviously, during COVID, we had a definite shortage of staff. So this is kind of a multi-point question. We'll come back to it. But are you able to get labor right now? What's that look like? Are you having trouble getting good people to be able to work with you folks? And are you still bringing people
100%. It's hard to find good. I don't know if it's as much as like COVID and what's hit. I think it's like the generation now. People, we have gone through like a lot of guys and they just don't work out. There's a 3-month probation period. It's also a hard position to fill because we're a small group.
Right.
And when you work with somebody in a small group every single day, you really need to vibe.
Yeah.
And if you don't vibe, it's really not working out because it's hard for everybody and the job's not getting done properly.
Right.
You do find them, but yes, it's so hard to find people that want to work, that aren't lazy, that retain information, that want to be better, want to do better, and treat it as a career. If we have people coming in and treating it as like their paycheck and like they just show up, then they're not going to make it because there's too much. Like you can't babysit people. Like you need to teach them. But once they're at that point of teaching, you need to trust that, okay, I went in and I checked all the point loads here. I framed that doorway in. I did this. Okay, perfect. That's checked off the list. Not, oh, okay, I need to go see if you did it right. Oh, okay. Oh, no, like this isn't right here. I have to change that. Just like you need trust in your guys.
Yeah.
And you need trust for them to say, I don't know, too, instead of taking on something that they're definitely not, they don't feel comfortable with, and then possibly hurting themselves or hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
And so it's just that fine line. And we have a group of 9 guys right now, and it's really good. We all vibe really well together. It's ironic how we all met because our project manager right now is one of my best friends that my boss met through a hockey game that we had together.
Sweet.
And he was going to school for architectural design and management, and he was looking for work out of school, and we were looking for a project manager. So it kind of just fell into place. We met this really good framer, Chris, from hockey as well. Hockey is just the way to make your business strive, I guess.
Yeah.
But but we've gone through multiple guys that are just good people too. Like the one guy, Evan, that we had, really good guy. I loved having a conversation with him. He had a kind heart. He meant well. He just didn't know how to work hard.
Right.
And when you don't know how to work hard, you have it or you don't. You have the drive or you just don't want to do it at all. And if you don't want to do it, like it just shows. And
you kind of have to have a passion for it, especially on the level that you're
doing. That's true.
You're asking a lot of money. Right. So you want guys that have a passion for it. And if you don't have a passion for it, you're just going to show up and do as little as you can. Like I've worked with guys like that lots where it's like they just come in and they will do the minimum. Whereas, guys like you or your team, they'll come in and they'll notice something that they haven't been asked to do, but they know that needs to be done. And so they go do it. Right. And they get that done and then they move on. It's like my field where I work a lot with in group homes and stuff like that. You go above and beyond, even though it's not your job to create a program, but you know how to do it. So you create a program for the client because you know them the best and you help them out and you go that extra mile because you have a passion for it. But then you get guys that show up that are like, I'm just here for the $24. I don't care. Like, you want me to hammer those boards together? Sure, man, I'll hammer them together. And it takes them 4 hours to do what takes you, 4 minutes. Because they don't care. They're getting the hourly wage, right? They don't care. And you're right. It is a bit of laziness. I think Pat and I talk about CERB and how CERB has hurt the community. Like I've talked to a lot of business owners that lost a lot of talent because of CERB. Because for 2 years they went off and did nothing, right? It's hard to come back and work hard after, I made more sitting on my ass for 2 years than I'm going to make coming to you. So I want more, or they come in and they have like expectations of either they feel like they know better, which is super frustrating. Like if someone comes on your job site and it's like, oh yeah, I got it all, like I've had people come in and go, I know everything there is to know about autism. I'm like, no, you don't, maybe autism is, and good for you. That'll help you a lot. But you don't know this guy, and this guy is completely different than any other autistic person you've ever met. And so let's slow down. Just like, your job site is like, I know everything there is to do about framing. Well, maybe you don't, right? So let's start at the beginning because you're like 19.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've had guys like that too. But
We have.
so do you think Serb hurt?
Yeah, we don't hiring is not very common for us because when we were small, we stayed small. We're still small, but we grew a little bit. And the growing it was thought about, but it was never really we never pursued the growing part of it. And I think the way our team fell together was that it literally fell together. And that allowed us to open up and on a way better scenario because we're not trial and erroring what's happening because Chris, our framer, he's the reason we have this 31,000 square foot house to frame right now because he was in tight with the general contractor on that site. He does all the big builds in like the Innisville Shoreview area and just multi-million-dollar homes. And he's running all of those. So, and he loves the way like this Chris guy is just we call him the hand cut samurai because this dude just fucking cuts up wood like you'll never believe for a roof. Like roofs are so complex. And man, it makes me wish I really paid more attention in math in high school and shit like that because roofs are fucking crazy, dude. Like the way these angles come together and depending on the pitch and then the hip cut here and the valley cut there and you're just like there's so many degrees and stuff and that's a topic for a whole nother podcast because that's a never-ending portal. But there's so much to know and carpentry is really fucking wicked because it's geometry and you're putting it together in a structural form and it's like I don't know, there's something really cool about it.
Yeah.
And we met at hockey. And so he was like, hey, I need help because he was short guys. So he had one other guy working with him. He was short guys. We were short guys. We teamed up for a house. It went well. We kept going and it just kind of grew from there. And our project manager, he was my best friend that was looking for work and went to school for it. So he started instead of like this hiring interview. No, You're not working out. We had a couple of those because we need laborers and we stuff like that, but they never worked out. But we do have a guy on that reminds me of kind of like he knows everything, and he's a smart guy. He really is. He retains information really well, but he also gets in over his head all the time, and he thinks that like I showed him something once, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fucking easy. I got it," and he'll go and do that and struggle with it, which is totally realistic because like, dude, just because it makes sense in your head doesn't mean that you can go do it. The hands-on part of it's the hardest part.
Oh yeah.
And you need to respect the trade because like we've put a lot of time, like I've put a lot of time in. Steve's had fucking way more time and Chris has had a decade or so on it. And he would come in, he would start talking back to us. And we were like, man, like you can't do this because you're not ready. I understand you're a smart cookie and you pick up on shit. But if you just don't, he would be the guy that would take on a job that he's not ready for and then something would go wrong.
Yeah.
And because he forgot about the smallest thing, the thing that's one of the easiest things about it, but you forget it because you're too focused on the complex stuff. There's so much to go into a house build and it's
no, I totally get that. Like, so when I was young, even if I knew a lot about it, whatever job I was getting into, like even if I felt I knew a lot, we were always taught at a young age, you do your time and then you get a voice. But now it seems that when people walk into like any business I have or anywhere I work, they feel like they walk in with a voice. And it's like, no, like I get stuff, but you don't know what's going on here. Let's give you some time to learn here, and then we'll give you a voice when you earn it. Like the fact that people walk in thinking that they're owed, they're entitled, really is what's hurting people who are trying to find work. You know, you can't walk in entitled. You have to walk in with your hat in your hand and go, yes, sir, no, sir, until you earn your spot. You know, you want to prove that you're the smartest person in the room? Well, then prove it by work. Shut the fuck up, get to work. I'm telling you right now that if Pat and I were like at your job site, we would shut up and work, but nothing would be right.
No, you guys, yeah.
It would be the worst ever. We'd have a lot of fun. But it would be worse ever. But no, I think that's a lot of the problem now is that because Pat and I have talked about this a lot, like people your age, like when you did sports, everyone won a trophy. When you did, like when you did an assignment, everyone, got a gold star. Like when I was a kid, the people that were the top were the ones that won, and the people that were the bottom, well, you got to try harder. If you had a good coach, they would teach you a little bit, and you if you wanted to, you worked harder to earn it. But now it seems like they don't keep score, they don't do any of that. So, we have a situation where moms are calling bosses and complaining to them that they're being mean to their kids. Like this is ridiculous. Like.
That was one time my mother called you, and I'll never hear the end of it.
That one time. I know.
Man, phone call. Yeah.
No, but that's true.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you, Kollin, as well, is that, again, with everything that's kind of going on in the world right now, one of the things that I've been talking about for the last probably 3 or so months is, we're kind of tiptoeing, or maybe not so tiptoeing, into kind of a recessionary time. And are you seeing, because your industry is going to be on the forefront of changes in the economy, right? Are you seeing slowdowns? Are you seeing, obviously, things like the price of lumber? I know that you guys were obviously affected by that at one point, but are you starting to see a bit of that inclination that there could possibly be a bit of a slowdown in the housing market?
Not anything right now. Actually, I would have to say it's the complete opposite, because COVID kind of really scared the shit out of us, because we were like, fuck, like, are we going to be out of work? Are we going to be doing CERB? Are we going to be like, doing this? And it was the opposite, man. We have never been busier. We are turning down half the calls we get in. Like, it's
awesome.
It's so the opposite, which blew our minds, because I was like, what? So like a house we built last winter, the lumber, it was actually a pretty big house. Again, it was for the same builder that we're working for right now. We framed it, not like we didn't take it to completion, but we framed it. The lumber package before we started was quoted at $150,000 for the lumber for the house. After COVID hit, which was when the lumber was ordered, their lumber package went from $150,000 to $400,000. And we were like, fuck, we're losing that house. Like, there's no way the clients are going to be like, oh yeah, go ahead. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, they did it. They don't give a fuck. They're like, we just want the house built. I think it really depends on what category you're working for. And if right now we are blessed enough to be working for the one percenters, or the people that money is really not an issue. And we in that industry, they don't care. They have enough money that this is just an investment to them. They have the money to back up whatever needs to happen to make it happen, and they're just not worried about it. They just make too much money, which pisses me off, because fucking me soon. But it's the opposite for us right now anyways. And
what about supplies? Have you come across, like, you can't get enough flooring, you can't get enough lumber?
That, you're right, that was an issue, was material. For the longest time, we had the biggest shortage of lumber. 2x4, just with the lumber spike, that just shows you the shortage, right? A 2x4 when I started was $3.50 for a 2x4 by 8, 2 inches thick, 4 inches wide, 8 feet long, and that was about $3.50. At its worst, it was over $17.
Wow.
$17 for a 2x4x8. It
Just
was
one.
absolutely
Yeah.
insane. Extreme shortages. So yes, that was hard. I think, well, I know for a fact, with our project manager Jordan, he orders all our, like, any toilets we need, kitchen cabinets, whatever appliances they pick, and countless problems with appliances. Clients still want to do the job, but everything's delayed an extreme amount. Okay, you want these custom doors. Well, normally they take 2 weeks. Right now they're at 2 or 3 months to come in. So we have to wait for that, or we have to wait for this. And there's a lot of waiting. Lumber's kind of back now. It's on its way back down. I think it's like $9 or $8 for a 2x4. So it's definitely coming back down, but tons of shortages. Tons of shortages.
Right. Well, again, with kind of the commodity pricing with wood, like we followed some of the lumber trades just as far as the commodity pricing on the stock market. And if you were smart enough to get ahead of that, you could make a ton of money. It was the same kind of thing as where we are with oil, right? So oil, when COVID fears, there was negative priced oil. Like if you could literally take possession of the barrels, these companies would send them to you and pay you, right? And now we see oil prices running up into the astronomical values they are now with no end in sight. And this is what my kind of concern is that when we look at kind of the commodities as they squeeze, what they're going to do to industries. And then when you have the rising interest rates for people spending the money on their homes, that starts to take purchasers out of the housing pool. So if you're, a young couple and you're 30 years old and in January, you could afford an $800,000 home at 2.25%. Well, now we're looking at 6%. You can't afford 800. You can't afford 600 really. So that's why I'm wondering is that, is there going to be in the new builds? Because we need new builds. There's no question. Yeah. We have such a housing shortage.
I talk about housing shortages all the time. Right now, it's a landlord's market. Like if I ever open a room, which has been a while, thankfully, I have 30, 40 people contact me right away. Like I don't even have it open 24 hours. 30, 40 people contact me right away because there are no places. Yeah.
No, it's insane, especially right now in our area, in the Barrie area, because it's so close to Toronto. Every year is just insane spikes. There was never traffic in Barrie. Now, 5 p.m. any day of the week, and ESSA is fucking backed right up on the highway, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that just means more houses are going to be being built, more farmlands are going to be destroyed, more trees are going to be taken down, and more. Which I don't know what way I go in the belief system, because I get it. People need to fucking live, and they have the right to live where they want to live, and there's money to be made. But you're killing the fucking environment. It's just a matter of time before there is no more farms. There's no more. Everything's just synthetic and garbage and chemicals, and so it's.
Have you guys done any work on an environmental home? Like that, since you're talking about the environment.
Not really for us. I've thought of it a couple times. I really like the idea of a tiny home, especially for a couple or. Denise and I have talked about it, and you can make solar power
right now.
What's that?
You basically live in a tiny home right now.
Oh yeah, I live in way worse than a tiny home right now. I'm like 250 square feet. You open the front door and there's the bed, there's the kitchen, there's the bathroom. You don't need a tour. You keep your shoes on. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. We do live in a beautiful spot, though. I'll give it that. It comes with its perks, but it is tight. It's very tight. But a tiny home, again, it depends what percentage of people really want to live that way. But off grid really excites me. It excites me, and then I think about the fact that Wi-Fi. I'm always using Wi-Fi all the time. Yeah. What the fuck do I do there? Well, thanks, Elon Musk, because Starlink is just about dialed right the fuck in, and you're going to have Wi-Fi no matter where you are, anywhere in the world. So check that one off. And now solar power is so powerful now that you can easily power your home off of solar. and they're just so strong. And again, it's a very expensive start, but once you're done, you're done. A wood-fired stove for heat, there is nothing better than the feeling of a wood-fired stove as your heat supply. It's just so comforting for me, anyways.
Have you done it before? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've done it where I've worked.
Yeah.
I lived in a place, and it's amazing. Love it. Till 3 a.m. in the morning when it's minus 30 out, and the stove has gone off, and you gotta like crawl out of bed every. I'm just saying.
You're very right. You're very true. There are things that will happen, but for the most part, I feel like you come up with a system. And for minus 30, you're going to have the system that works.
Right.
And
I would think so.
It'll do the job. And insulation now.
You guys should really try sex.
What's that?
Like, it's the greatest thing ever. 3 a.m. fires. I'm like,
yeah,
that's terrible. I don't want any part of that. You guys should do that.
Yeah.
So you know what?
Go ahead.
Right. With builds now and technology, our spray foam is the R value. Insulation goes by R value. So there's R5, R10, R12, R24, R34, and it goes up. You can have spray foam well over above R50, and it's so tight that if your wood stove went out in the middle of the night, you're gonna be fine. You're not even gonna know until the morning. It's gonna take so little to heat that place. You're right. Back in those log shacks that there was no insulation and things are tight. Yeah, you're gonna freeze your fucking ass off in no time if that wood stove's not on.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you build your own tiny home with this in mind, that issue won't come up because it's kind of all figured out now. But
so I was looking into a tiny home because now there's rental opportunities for tiny homes. They're talking about like putting a detached small home in your backyard if you have a big enough space. Yeah. I have a big enough space, but there are so many hoops in the city that added so many hoops. One of them is you have to have a driveway for 3 cars. Yeah. So I could fit 3 cars, but I don't know that they would let it fly because I'm not sure exactly how it goes. You have to have an independent electric system and stuff like that. So like they kind of, I don't know what it's called, but they're kind of putting all these rules and regulations to make it impossible. But at the same time, say we have a housing shortage. Like if they made it easy for me to put a home in the back because I could safely, I would hire a contractor, I'd get all the permits and all that stuff. But because there's all these restrictions, that's the word I was looking for. All the restrictions, it just turns me off of it. Like I'd love to put a little home in the back. I got lots of room. I'd have room, and then I'd still have some backyard if I put one in, and then I could rent it out to a nice family or something like that, and make some money along the way as well. Exactly. But the regulations just kind of there are so many regulations with building anything. I'm sure with homes there's regulations, but with these tiny homes there seems to be an added regulation because you have to worry about you can't tax your sewer on your own home. You can't tax the hydro. You can't there's a lot of things involved, and fire. So the fire you have to be within so many yards of like a fire hydrant or something like that because they don't want to. Which I'm sure are good laws. I'm not saying they're not, but they are and they aren't because that's most of these hoops are recent. Like 2-3 years ago, this was super easy to do, because it was all of a sudden it was this thing. And everyone was calling them garden suites. Oh, we're going to build a garden suite. We've built 3 of them already. This little mini home. And they're less than like 1,000 square feet. They just 1 floor, a crawl space. You got your kitchen, 1, maybe 2 bedrooms, bathroom. That's it. Done.
Mm-hmm. So when you've done those, Kollin, while you're just because I'm very interested in this myself.
Yeah.
When you've done them, so are you running separate plumbing to the city? Like to the mains, or do you? Okay.
Yeah. So the new plumbing goes right into the main. You have to call the city. They have to come in and they do their thing. We had a Yeah, we had a whole sidewalk ripped apart because that's what they were doing, is connecting into that and running off of their own thing. There might be a way, depending on the way your system runs, if you could do it. I doubt you can now because of all these hoops. But this was this fling. Everyone wanted to do this, and everyone was doing it. So now you picture, like, we're literally in a game of Monopoly, because you buy a piece of real estate, and how many fucking houses can you fit on that piece of real estate? That's Monopoly. It's literally a game of Monopoly.
Totally.
And everyone started playing, right? So there was these subdivision homes. They literally have 100 square foot fucking, or no, sorry, not 100 square foot, but they had like subdivision backyards, and they were putting a fucking house in the backyard. There would be no backyard. There's literally no more backyard. Yeah. You have brick house, you have driveway, and backyard is another house. And that's everyone was doing this. And they finally came to the conclusion. They were like, okay, like, we have to slow this the fuck down, because otherwise shit's going to be psycho. And they hated the fact that everyone's making money off this. So like, okay, yeah, you can still do it, but this is how much shit you have to pay for before you can do it, so that we earn our fucking right to it, and then you can have yours. So it was a crazy couple of years, because it was just all of a sudden everyone wanted to do it, and then they're gone. No one wants to do anything because it made too much.
I know for us in our community, this is something that's really come a long way in the last, I would say, probably 2 years. A lot of the conversation has gone to like the accessory dwelling units. And a lot of it goes to our housing shortage and crisis in our area here. And it's interesting that you brought that up, because I've looked at a few properties where, I've talked with real estate agents at the time. And one of the selling facets that they bring up immediately is that, okay, so you've got, 75-foot frontage, you got a 200-foot deep yard. You could very easily put this secondary dwelling package together here for, $150,000, $200,000 to be able to put something back there renting at X, right? Yeah. And it's something that the real estate industry is really looking at right now while rents are running, right? And that's where I'm wondering about what the long-term kind of viewpoint is on housing. Like, I know for myself, like, I'm looking more and more at commercial residential, right? So I'm looking at, say, 18, 20 unit apartment buildings all over Canada right now, while I think that the housing is going to pull back. And trying to find something that I can do that with, as well as provide for that growth opportunity. I'm 35 years old, right? So by the time I'm 65, ready to retire, these are all paid for. What's next? And having that opportunity for growth. But like you say, when regulation gets in and you get the red tape of the restrictions where you can't build, or you have to deal with all the environmental assessments that are coming down the pipe now too, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm sure for years people were bastards and did terrible, awful things, but I don't plan on doing that, right? Yeah. Well, maybe if I can get away with it, I don't know. We'll
see. It's amazing what you would say yes to if you could get away with it.
Right. It's funny how that works. But no, and it's to me, these opportunities to take these century homes that are built on, beautifully, historic wooded areas, and be able to plop these properties in there. I think that's going to be a huge development over the next 10 years, right? 100%. Especially as real estate is pushing that.
Yeah. And you got it. And I don't know a whole lot about the real estate market. I haven't dove too far in, but it feels like real estate is one of the main ways to make a good income and have a good return on your investment. Yeah. You buy a car, you buy a sports car. Well, it depends some very rare sports cars will go up in value. 99 out of 100 of them, they deplete very fast. Yeah. Right. Very fast. Your return on that is complete garbage.
That sounds like something close to your heart there, Kollin.
Yeah, a little bit. I drive a 2019 Subaru WRX, and that car actually wasn't the worst car to buy, because they do hold their value. Mm-hmm. And I actually could, sell. It's not that bad. I would break even, basically, which is a lot to say, with cars and reselling. But
you'd have to sell it soon, because right now there's a demand for cars. What's
yeah,
that?
I have to sell it soon, and then what do I buy? And then whatever I buy is not reliable, and then it's just this chain reaction of whatever you want to go with.
Getting back to those small houses, the other interesting kind of concept that right now is that we talk about how, you know, we have a lot of immigration. And so a lot of the people that I deal with when I rent a room talk about two couples renting a room, like one room. They want to, the two couples move in to rent a room, and they think it's crazy that I'm like, no, like that doesn't make any sense. It's a small room. Like, have you seen it? Like, it's big enough for like one person, not four. But if you had a tiny home, and when I talk to them, I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Like, why would you want to move? And they're just like, it's just what we're used to. You know, it's what where we come from. It's what, you know, we live with our whole family. We live with our grandma, our grandpa, you know, all the kids, sometimes the cousins and everything.
Yeah.
So being in a small space isn't a hard thing. Like you and me and Pat here, we're used to big houses. So for us to have even the concept of living in a tiny home is just like, it's foreign. But for these guys, it really is right in their wheelhouse. And if you built a really nice home in your backyard, you have no problem renting it to a nice family. Like I know it wouldn't be a problem. And part of that, I think, is immigration, because they're coming from a spot that's normal. That's nothing wrong with it. It's just different than what we do, right?
So something that I've watched over the years is the multi-generational families coming together, right? So whether you've got aunts, uncles, cousins, all that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we as a society pulled away from a long time ago. Like myself, like I'm a good Irishman, and that was something that, you know, there was grandma that would be sitting at the kitchen table, and whether it's just because they were too poor back in the old country when they came here, that was how you survived. You didn't put people in the old folks' home and kind of wish them well, and away you go. So, you know, as much as it's a new cultural thing, it kind of goes back to some of the cultural viewpoints that we've kind of walked away from in a lot of ways, which, right, wrong, or indifferent. For myself, I know that that's not what I want for my parents. James's children are trying to get him into a home as quick as they can.
They already planned one. It's a shack, a really nice shack.
Down by the river.
Down by the river. It's a van.
Where the watermelons grow.
That's right.
Well,
it's a van down by the lake.
That's it. And a little coat.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
No, I think it's cool, Kollin, what you're doing. And I think that there's obviously a huge demand with what we need to try to catch up with our housing issues here in Ontario and in Canada. And I really do wonder what the regulation, and especially if we do see a real estate housing pullback as far as the pricing, right? Like if you had a $1 million home in January, and we were having bidding wars where it's a million, now it's $1.1 million, $1.2 million, right? You see those $200,000 over asking. I feel really good about putting on that addition, right? Because I realize that the equity value is going to be
worth it. Yeah.
Right. So when we start to see, let's say we see a 15 to 20% pullback in the market, which those of you that have kind of followed what I'm kind of concerned about right now, is I think there's a very strong potential in that, right? That a minimum of a 20% pullback in the real estate market. I wonder what that's going to do in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It sounds like what you guys do is somewhat elite, right? It sounds like you guys, while you're working on the Rogers family's house, like
he's talking about an $800,000 home that now is going to drop down to be a $750,000 or a $700,000 home, which is what you're talking about, like a little depreciation. Like houses are going to depreciate like cars are. Like the cars drive off the lot and they depreciate right away, right? That's because they are overpriced.
Yeah.
Already. That's what you're talking about, right, Pat?
Well, so what I'm saying is that so here's the 30-second elevator pitch. Yeah. Okay. So today you and your girlfriend go out and you want to buy a house, and in your neighborhood, you probably couldn't buy anything under $1 million. Okay. So all of a sudden you folks go in, and there's another couple that's bidding, and another couple that's bidding, and another couple that's bidding. And that $1 million listing price now goes for 1.25. Okay. You go to your bank, you get that loan. You might be a first-time home buyers. You put 5% down on that house. Okay. So let's just, for round numbers quickly, let's say you owe $1.2 million to the good old folks at RBC, right?
Yeah.
So you pay your mortgage every month. You've got call it $5,000 a month mortgage at 2.5%. Okay. This is January. This is like 2.5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mortgage rates now are 6.5%. So your house at 1.25 million is now worth 1.1. Your equity, you've only got 80,000, 90,000, maybe $100,000 in equity in that property. You can't get out of the loan. You can't sell it because the people that you at 2.25%, 2.5%, you qualified at that. Well, now you can't get out of the deal. You can't sell. If something happens, you and your girlfriend split. What do you do? So what you do is you end up in situations where the more housing starts to come onto the market. And that's where I'm wondering if, and again, this is just my economic mind, the way that I think about things, is that you guys right now are so busy. Is it because people are working on projects to list their home? Are they working on projects because they want to stay in their home? Are they working on projects because, like, the flipping business is dead?
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
The governmental regulations that have come in, the tax disincentives have crushed the flipping business in Ontario. And it's because it was a runaway business.
Right.
I think you're going to see those regulations come off because they're going to need home buyers again. That's where I think that the market's going to end up going with real estate over the next, I'd say 2 years. Right.
That's where we've gone. That's the direction. Like, we still do renovations and stuff.
Yep.
I think we're at the point where it's not that they're trying to flip the house, but they're doing it for their own.
Right.
They don't feel like they're going to lose money in the price of the house, but they're doing it for their own good. They don't plan on selling.
Well, that goes back to what Pat's saying, is if you try to sell your house, you're not going to be able to go buy another house. But if you make your house the way you want it, then at least you have that, right?
Yeah.
And that's a market that, again, I'm not very knowledgeable in. You're going to know way more about that market than I am. Based on our clients and work and what's going on, you're right, because we started doing like new builds, and all these clients already have a home, but they are able to buy a property and build a home and then sell it afterwards. But that's their plan, is to make money on selling it after they've purchased the land, paid for the home to go up, and then selling and making money and then moving on to the next one. Yeah. Flipping, unless you got multiple properties on the go, I think the only way it's really going to pay off is if you do it yourself.
Right.
Because you will make money, but you got to work for it. And it's fucking a lot of work, man. Like, you want to, you have an unfinished basement and you want to finish that basement. Yeah. It's fucking, there's so much work and there's so much to think about. And there's like electrical, HVAC, plumbing. You need experts in there because you don't know everything. I don't know everything. If I were to build my own house, I know 100% right now I'm not doing everything in that house. I'm getting HVAC pros to come in and do the HVAC. I'm getting plumbing professionals to come in and do that. I'm getting electricians to come in and do that, because that's not my field. I don't know. You can know everything. Obviously, there's very smart people in the world, but for the most part, you need pros in there, and you got to, to predict the market. In my mind, real estate is never really a bad investment. I think if you're in, you're in. And I think if the market does slow down, to believe that it's going to fold and like go in it's hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
Obviously anything can happen. I feel like it'll definitely slow down and come to a standstill, but eventually it's just going to go back up. And especially with how many, like you said, like the living situation, no one has a place to live. You're getting 40 calls a day on your apartment for rent, and it's a matter of time. It's knowing when to buy and when to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
You just can't do it like whenever you want. You got to read it. You got to read the game. It's poker, right? You got to know when to fold and know when to make the bet and know when it's going to pay off.
I feel like I've heard it from somewhere before.
Yeah.
Pat said exactly the same thing. You got to read it. You got to be able to know it so well to know when to do it and not to do it.
Yeah. You can't just walk through a poker game in a fucking professional tournament and expect to walk out with the jackpot.
Right.
Because you're not going to know how the game works.
No.
You got to know how the game works and how it's played and go from there.
Yeah. Well, I would like to sit down with both you gentlemen and play a poker game at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to take all your money because I just know the psychology of both of you and I know how to read you both. But so anyway, so I think this would be a good place to stop. We're over an hour again. Kollin, I just want to thank you. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I texted Kollin at 4 a.m. this morning because that's what I do. I wake up so early and pitched it to him because like it was fairly late at night when Shannon had to drop out. We were actually in the middle of a live. Like we were in the middle of last night's live and then Pat looked down, his eyes got big, but he didn't say anything. Actually, if you look at the live, to watch last night's live, you'll see the moment when he gets it. Because then afterwards, he's like, I got something to tell you. And then, so we were scrambling through our heads on like who we could get on short notice. Because it's a lot. Like it's a lot to come on here and have the ability to just chat. You know, it's a lot to feel that secure in yourself. And there's a lot of people who can't do it. I talk to people all the time. They're like, I don't know how you do it. Like it's crazy. And Kollin didn't even like, it wasn't, I don't even think I got the question, finished texting. And he was like, yeah, man, sounds great. Cool. Although I have to work all day and then I'm going out with the boys and then I'm going golfing. And after all that, then I'll sit down with you and have a chat. So Kollin, you know what? Just like your dad raised you, you're the salt of the earth. Hold on to that sunshine that sits beside you. Denise, she's amazing. No, not you. No. I just put up with you. Denise is the sunshine. No, and it's awesome. I know you guys are just starting your life together and it's going to be great. And all the knowledge that you brought to the table today, I really appreciate it. It's awesome that you just dropped in here. Ahern?
Man, it was an absolute blast. Yeah, like you said, I was a little like I thought about it for a second. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna be online, but I was like, it's weird. The first time doing it, yeah, and it's definitely weird. But no, I knew it was gonna be easy. Like I said, I've listened to you guys with Denise and my dad. I listened to both podcasts in full, and
so you're the one.
That's like he's the guy.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
You finally met him. Yay.
No, Kollin, I appreciate it, pal. It was a pleasure, man. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to chat with you. I've heard all about you. James loves your family, loves you, and I know he's pretty proud of everything that you're accomplishing right now and what you're going to do. So it was awesome to sit down and actually have a conversation with you. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate you, pal. So
he's also a judge of fine liquor. I'm just saying.
Sorry?
He's also a judge of fine liquor.
There you go. We could have a little Scotch afternoon on one of these sometime.
Little cigars. You like cigars too. We could play a little poker, maybe on a boat. You know,
on a boat. I know a guy.
A little doobie rolled, and we'll be good to go.
Well, we don't do that. I'm too old, and he's again it.
I'm not a big guy into that stuff, but I'll to each their own. That's how I roll. So, guys,
it was a pleasure, boys. I was super excited to have a chat with you guys and get to meet you, Pat. And we'll have to do it again for sure.
Sounds good.
The name of your company one more time, just for fun. Let's get you some business.
Straight Line Construction, at Straight Line Construction on Instagram. Yeah, I mean, we don't have too many followers. What's that?
That's the best way to contact you guys is Instagram.
Yeah, or phone number 613-393-9693.
Nice. We get 5%, by the way, Kollin. Just you might want to let your boss know that we get 5% now of all your business.
Yeah.
Awesome. As always, folks, thank you so much for joining us here at Soaring Profits. I'm sure we will do some content over the weekend. We are looking at Canada Day coming up tomorrow. I know that I'm a little busy. I'm going to be in Toronto for my daughter's birthday. Got some fun stuff planned for her. Turning 13. I am officially the parent of a 13-year-old. So look out, world.
We are currently looking for ways to keep her in her room. We don't know the laws. Yeah. We don't know the laws surrounding it yet. So if anyone knows the laws about keeping the teenager away from anything that's male, you can let us know.
I also know where I can probably hide a body now out at the Roger place. So
Yeah, right there's a big building here. Yeah, there's a big building.
That's a little one. Little one.
So, yeah. Thanks again, folks. We'll talk with you real soon. As always,
let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
let's make some money together, folks. Have a